Welcome to Reread, where I'm rereading through the expanded universe in chronological order. We are on the Star Wars Episode 1 Adventures, number 9, Rescue to the Core by Ryder Wenham. This one is focusing on Jar Jar Binks. Oh boy, or as he would say, oh boy. Okay, there's a few things here in the book that I had forgotten about. First off is a little editor's note to children about how Gungans speak. And I think Ryder knew when writing this, he went, kids are going to be so confused because adults have a hard time understanding what Jar Jar and Gungan say, right? So he's thinking, oh gosh, a whole book like this. So it was just a little paragraph to tell the kids that Gungans speak a little bit different in what their dialect is, and he names it some type of basic. And if you're having trouble understanding what they're saying, you need to pronounce these words out loud. Good idea, right? So Misa, Woken, you, taken you, or whatever it is. And I can't imagine, now that I'm thinking about this, for kids, I understand kids love Jar Jar. Jar Jar was created for kids, but can they really understand and read what Jar Jar is saying? Now that probably was a challenge to a lot of kids. I even had time, kind of a difficult time looking over a few of the words, and I don't know if this is anyone else, my eyes just kind of skimmed over the words, went, okay, saying something about it's broken, moving on. Like I don't need to understand every single one, but I can only imagine how a kid felt. Now after that, he gives a short little blurb about Jar Jar Binks, and he's always prone to accidents, and there was a petition signed by thousands of people in Gungan City who want him banished forever. But Boss Nass, even though he seems kind of evil in episode 1, he's still under the opinion that, you know what, I'll give Jar Jar another chance. I'm going to give him a job. He gives him something that no one else has given Jar Jar, and it says a job. And so there's like an introduction to the story. And Jar Jar is working, this is great too, by the way, Ryder Wenham making Jar Jar enjoyable. He is working in a underwater zoo, and he has a doo-doo scooper, D-U-D-U scooper, the doo-doo scooper. Yep. And he's going, pee, use a stinking. And he's cleaning out, stalls. That is hilarious. And of course, there's a little funny thing. No, he didn't fall into the poo, but something happens while he's there. And the next chapter, it says, some Gungan who was in charge of the zoo, it says it took them 10 minutes to find out who had let the animals out of all their pens. And then it says Jar Jar was asleep in one of the cells. He decided to take a nap because all that doo-doo scooping made him tired. So he takes a nap, and I guess he hits something and the doors come out, and then some of the animals escape. And so it's all his fault. And this is the last straw. And Boss Nass, Captain Tarples, or I think it's a Woolard or something. I can't remember, Commander Woolard or whatever, brings him before Boss Nass. He goes, hey boss, we got to get rid of him. And, he says, we're going to banish him, or he's under probation is what he's under, because of probation, probation, whatever. And so he's under that probation where he has to go work at the quarry. It's just, I guess chipping away at coral or something. I don't know. It used to be closed, and it was closed down, but it's a punishment they're going to give Jar Jar Binks. And he's going to sit there and work in the quarry until he works off his probation there. And he's under probation for another year. So if anything goes wrong within that year, he's out. He will be banished. And so Boss Nass, Commander Woolard, or whatever his name is, and Jar Jar getting one of their little bongos, and they drive all the way to the quarry. And to do that, they have to go through the planet core. Now, this sets up the story in episode 1 as the core is very dangerous. Jar Jar knows that, and Jar Jar goes with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan to help guide them through it. Well, how does Jar Jar know how dangerous the core is? Well, this book explains it. He had to go through the core. They got caught up in, I think, what's called a sea storm. So a sea storm shook the bongo. It knocked out everyone but Jar Jar. And then Jar Jar has to save the day. Of course, getting away from this fish and battling other fishes, finding the escaped fish and leading them back home to their cages. And there's everything he does is by accident. He grabs the controls, they slip, He takes a left when he meant right, but then that narrowly misses the fish. Another fish comes. There's always a bigger fish, right, to bite the other one. There is a scene where he has like a shock spear or whatever. It's a spear with a little shock in, and he goes to throw it at the creature who's attacking him, but he bobbles it and drops it, and it just happens to fall exactly on where it needs to go for the fish to fall. I mean, everything's done by accident, but he does, in fact, save Boss Nass and Commander Willard or whatever, Woolard. And so when they finally get to wherever their destination is, Captain Tarples and Fossa are ready to arrest him right then and there for what he's done, because they don't know if he was trying to escape or whatnot. And Boss Nass wakes up and realizes that Jar Jar was the one that piloted him through there, and maybe, but saved their lives. Because he realized, hey, we got knocked out. How did we get here? Jar Jar helped us go through the core. So Fossa decides, well, since you saved his life, then we're not going to arrest you. Boss Nass says, what do you want? He goes, well, I want to go to the... Jar Jar says, I want to go to the Festival of Warriors. He says, done. I want to do something. I can't remember what the second one was. He says, done. And then Jar Jar goes, I want me to be off probation too, pleasies? And he goes, no, Jar Jar, you not be on you're still on probation or whatever. He goes, okay, dokies, 2 out of 3 isn't bad. And so it's getting used to talking like Jar Jar. Maybe you shouldn't read this book. Anyway, so they get to go to the Festival of Warriors, and somehow he gets mixed up where he's going to have to compete. And that's where this book leaves off. Now, what's in store for book 2? I have no idea, but we'll find out together next time.